So guys, with the most important bits of content within the Edge of Fate expansion now out and playable, I think now is a good time to get my review and general thoughts out about this expansion as a whole. For those of you who don't want to sit here for however long this video will end up being, I got you. For a TLDR overview, I feel like this expansion is a good starting point and foundation level update for the game. If you're looking to get into Destiny for the first time or waiting for just the right time to return, I truly do think now is the best time you're going to get for quite some time. Overall, the campaign is a fun and interesting experience story-wise, although gameplay-wise it's still a little bit rough at some points, so that could use some work. The new character Lodi had me worried based on past experience of newly introduced characters, but it actually turned out to be the part of the expansion I enjoyed the most. The new portal system has some good groundworks set, but could use some work when it comes to having people not just play the fastest exotic mission for loot, and the Desert Perpetual raid is, in my opinion, the most fun I've had in a raid in a while. Hopefully that summary helps, but now let's start things out here properly with the campaign. To set the stage here without spoiling too much, you, Ikora, and the Drifter have been invited to Kepler, the new destination with this expansion, for an unknown reason by the mysterious group called the Nine. The Nine are basically a group of fourth-dimensional beings, comparable to gods, that we know quite literally nothing about, other than they are called the Nine and have an emissary who occasionally talks to us in cryptic ways. Once you get to Kepler, you'll quickly meet up with Lodi, a seemingly random dude who for some reason is also on Kepler and received a similar call from the Nine. I don't really want to spoil too much about this character, but what I do want to say is that the voice actor behind Lodi, sorry if I'm saying his name wrong, Brian Villalobos, and the writing team behind this new character did an incredible job with them and seemed to learn a lot from the mistakes of Nimbus and Rohan. You know, the guy who died too quick for you to even begin to care about him, and the guy who was way too cringe given the dire circumstances we were in during the Lightfall expansion. No hate to those who worked on those characters, by the way, but Lodi was just introduced in a much better way and just fit way more in with the story. After meeting Lodi, you will then be tasked with exploring Kepler, dealing with the ongoing Vex and Fallen Threat, and trying to figure out why the Nine have invited you here. Now overall, I enjoyed the story of Edge of Fate, but where things started to take a bit of a hit is when it comes to the gameplay side of things. Now a lot of people seemed to have a big issue when it came to the new abilities within Kepler, those being Matter Spark, where you turn into a ball, Relocator Cannon, which is basically a cannon that can activate fallen portals, and Matter Morph, which allows you to move parts of the world to make bridges or open new doorways. Now I didn't personally despise these abilities as much as other people seemingly do. My main issue came with the fact that I would know I needed these abilities to progress, but couldn't actually find them. For example, there was a time where I needed to use all three abilities to progress. I had found Matter Spark and Matter Morph, but I could not for the life of me find where the Relocator Cannon was, and the game doesn't really help you with this whatsoever, as its main objective markers don't show you where this ability can be found, they just lead you to the closed door that you know you need to get through. After about 30-ish minutes I was able to find said cannon and progress, but surely after that amount of time has passed, the game would be like, okay bro, it's over here. Now, I know this is an issue within some other games where it tells you this info too early, but not telling me at all led me to thinking that the mission was probably bugged or something. This may be just a massive me issue, but overall, that was one of the only real issues I had. Plus, once you complete the campaign, you gain the ability to activate Matter Spark wherever you are, similarly to how you summon a Sparrow, which is a nice addition and one I would like to see added to the other abilities in the future if possible. Another thing to note is that some people didn't like the overall puzzle mechanics within the campaign. I wasn't really all that bothered, but the intro ones in the first couple of missions were a bit simplistic, and as you get further into the campaign they do become more challenging with you needing to use multiple of the new abilities simultaneously. Moving away from the story now though, let's talk the portal, which is the new way people are meant to navigate their way through the game. Now I've already made another video going over in way more detail how this new system works, but to explain it simply, you just pick an activity, see what rewards you get, and hit play is the basic premise. And I really do like this system. Yes, it needs some work, as playing the same exotic mission over and over being the best way to grind levels isn't the most exciting thing, and I would love to see past dungeons at least being added to this system. Raids, I'd say keep them separate for sure, but for older dungeons, I feel like they would fit perfectly into the portal. Alongside this, being able to customize the difficulty of these activities is very fun to do. Now sadly, Bungie removed easily the most fun modifier, which replaced your grenade with 3 grapple grenade charges with 0 cooldown, which when paired with a very rewarding exotic mission would allow you to get like 7 to 8 powerful drops within like 10 to 15 minutes if you knew where you were going, which led to people getting to a very high power level very quickly, which is why it was sadly removed. But I do really hope Bungie adds it back at some point because it was so much fun to basically be Spider-Man for a couple of minutes there. This, along with there now no longer being any weekly lockouts to how much power you can grind in a week, leads to you always having stuff to do, and not just getting your weeklies done and waiting until the next weekly reset. This has been a change I've wanted for a while, and I'm so happy to see it finally implemented here. I don't know if a lockout is still present on the raids though, even though it would be cool to be able to infinitely farm raids. I can understand if this wouldn't be the case, at least when it comes to the exotic weapon drop from the specific raids. Speaking of raids, let's now talk the Desert Perpetual raid. Just to make it clear here, I did not go into the contest mode. I happily watched as people went in and got crushed by the incredibly challenging DPS checks that are present within every encounter. Yes, you heard that right. Every encounter in this raid is a boss encounter. No puzzle encounters, just bosses, similar to how Pantheon worked, except instead of being teleported to the next encounter, you have to backtrack your way to the main starting area and go through a jumping puzzle to find the next boss. Another cool thing this raid does is it lets you pick what order you do the encounters in, other than the final boss, which will always be the last encounter that you do, which is a really interesting idea, but not one that I personally want to become the norm when it comes to raids, as I personally really like the idea of progressing through a large space, like how you start in one part of Oryx's Dreadnought and then meet him at the end, or how you start from the outside of Oryx Pyramid and make your way to the center. From my experience with the normal mode raid though, I would personally say that this is easily one of my top 5 raids of all time, as each boss has, I would say, a way more challenging mechanic tied to it compared to most other raid bosses, and I think Dao said it best on stream, where every boss within this raid could have been its own final raid boss. And I really do like that Bungie this time around has shaked up the formula a bit when it comes to raid design. Also, the addition of being able to get higher tier raid loot from just completing multiple runs of the raid, alongside completing it with additional modifiers enabled, means that it will eventually be the best source for high-end gear, which is something that raids have sometimes lacked in the past, as sometimes the best loot wasn't always tied to the raid itself. Now that said, I still don't know all the weapon rolls for this raid, so I'll have to wait to give a verdict on the raid loot until a later date. That said though, the raid loot does look amazing this time around, with the weapon side not only having a completely new addition in the form of a heavy crossbow, but also a very potent origin trait to boot. And the gear isn't lackluster either, as its armor set bonus is one that I can personally see a lot of people taking advantage of once they get their hands on it. And I think that is everything that I have to say for this review. Overall, I've been having a great time with this expansion. Having new stuff to grind in Destiny is always a good time, and I feel like the new features this expansion brings with it have created a great foundation for Bungie to build upon in Renegades and beyond. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, remember to leave a like and subscribe for more content, and with that said, I'll see you all in the next one.